be here together. And we are here because we are so wonderful. We are here by divine appointment. This is the only place that we are supposed to be. All of us gathered together here in love and understanding of one another. And I want to remind us that even though what's going on the planet, something else is also going on the planet, and that is the harmonic convergence with the 8 planets on the same side of the sun, plus Pluto. And this means a very positive energy is given, so that counteracts. It's another kind of a wake-up call. It's a spiritual wake-up call, and people are praying together from all over the world. And I'm so happy to let you know that we are united and we are waking up to our wonderful contribution of who we are individually to the planet. I would like to introduce you to our beautiful hostess, Janice Edmond, and here she is.
Hello, everyone. Oh, it is just so nice to be here with you and to see all of you. Everyone's smiling, and I'm just enjoying this view very much. Reverend Rainbow, did you want to do an invocation or?
Yes, I think I'll do an invocation right now. That's a great idea. So let's take a deep breath again, please. As I actually recognize that God is all there is, and that wonderful power is here as each of us individualized, bringing our beautiful divine energy here. I bless this evening and know it is completely memorable in our souls that we are getting together to talk and understand one another and to listen and hear one another at a deep, non-judgmental level. I bless this evening as it is totally divine, and I give thanks for it. And together we say, and so it is.
Yeah. So it is.
So it is.
So it is.
So it is. Thank you so very much. Well, I just want to talk just a minute or two about our goal for this evening. We have work to do. No, I'm only kidding. This is going to be very, very relaxed. But we do have a goal, and that's to talk about what is on our minds, what is in our hearts, and do it within this safe, non-judgmental, loving space. And we want, of course, to support one another during these very challenging times. Well, how we're going to go about doing this, first we're going to hear from 3 speakers briefly, and they will help us frame the evening discussion. In fact, Reverend Rainbow sent them a few questions that they could, or don't have to, but they could respond to kind of put a framework on what we're talking about tonight. So here are some of the questions, excuse me, and statements. How do you respond to people of different viewpoints? How do you listen? Do you truly hear? What can I do, or what can you do to make a difference? You could make a statement, here is what I think, or here's another one, here is what I feel about our country in crisis. So that was just kind of a framework that we were trying to set forth. After the speakers talk, we invite all of you to share your ideas and feelings about what's going on. Our first presenter is Mrs. Patricia Watson. And let me tell you a little bit about her. Very special. We have some very special people, all of us really. Patricia Watson has been a practitioner, a spiritual coach for the Centers for Spiritual Living since 2003. She serves as a remote practitioner with the Center of Peace in Elkins Park, Pennsylvania. She taught online classes from 2003 to 2017. And some of the classes were the Foundations of Science of Mind, treatment and meditation. And she's also taught practitioner 1 and 2. She's a co-director of the Wisdom of the Heart, Science of Mind study group, which started also in 2003. Her passion is singing, and she sings jazz, gospel, and blues. We heard some of that last time. It was great. She also sings with the Seaside A Cappella Women's Chorus. Patricia has one son, John, who's a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army and has just returned from South Korea. She lives in East Le Havre, Nova Scotia, with her husband, David. Patricia.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. So I thought I would talk a little bit about what I'm doing in my community, but I wanted to start off by reading something to you. It's a little story. Once there was a little bird that lived during the times of Prophet Abraham. When Prophet Abraham was thrown into the fire by the enemy of faith, King Nimrod, a little bird saw what happened and decided to put out the fire to help protect him. The little bird starts scooping up little drops of water in her tiny beak from the nearby river. The larger birds in the vicinity watched and laughed at the little bird, and they said, where are you carrying the water? And the little bird said, to put out the fire around Prophet Abraham. And the larger birds continued laughing. How could you put out such a huge fire with such a small amount of water? It is pointless and useless. Do you know what the little bird replied? I am sure Allah would not ask me whether I managed to put out the fire or not, but Allah would ask what I have done to stop the fire. And so one of the things I wanted to talk about is what I'm basically doing in my community. And it started a couple of weeks ago with me basically going to a full moon drumming. And I was drumming and it was really interesting and I fell asleep. And some of the people are asking me, well, what came out of your vision while you were drumming? And I said, well, actually nothing, because I fell asleep. And then I realized that I've been falling asleep to what's been going on in this country, in Canada and the States for quite a while. I mean, I used to march and all that jazz when I was a young child, 19, 16, etc. But I've gotten cushy and comfortable. So what transpired was our mayor here in Bridgewater had a rally for, basically take a knee for racism, and talked about the fact that, as a white man, he has no clue what it means to be in a black skin, but he wanted to start some kind of a task force around racism here in Bridgewater. Now, there are not that many people of color here, but we have indigenous people, First Nations, we have Syrian people that have come into the country now. We have a few Black people as well. And basically he wanted to start doing something. So I volunteered to help start up the committee. That's my husband sneezing in the background, by the way. In light of that, what has transpired is we've had 2 meetings thus far. We are having our 3rd one coming up very shortly. Our focus basically is on looking at who in the community we need to be inviting to the table to be a part of our committee. And the other thing we're looking at too is that what can we do in terms of sacred circles, in terms of, because we can't meet, so we'll have to do this via, Zoom. But who are the stakeholders that we want to invite into this circle so that we can start talking about the issues of racism, the issues of classism, et cetera, on down the line here in our small community. And so one of the things that's come out of this, which is really good, is the mayor has gone back to the council and said that he wants us to be a part of town council as a committee, so that when he's not in office anymore, we don't have to worry about what's going to happen in terms of the community disperse. The other is that there are several things that have transpired here in Nova Scotia around the name Cornwallis, who basically was a racist back in the day. And so we have been asked to be a part with the Heritage Society here to rename Cornwallis Street in Bridgewater. So the things that are happening here are really exciting. And I just finished a 21-day radical equity challenge that was put on by the Center for Spiritual Awareness in Sacramento. There are a lot of things that each day we would get together and talk about specifically what we had done, either read something or watch a video or get engaged in what I'm doing right now with the task force. And then basically not only talk about it, but also what impact did it have on us as we're moving through this process. So there's no way now that I can say, I'm going to put my head back in the sand. I'm engaged, I'm in it, and I have a lot of friends of mine who have connections with the community, with the stakeholders. I was involved in a project last year with the town of Bridgewater, where we won a $5 million contract for poverty and energy poverty, people who are living in poverty within this community. And so they've put that to work. And so one of the things that I've decided that is really important for me to be able to do is to represent this community as a Black woman. I've lived here for 26 years. Have I experienced racism? Maybe when I first moved here, people would look at me a little strange, like, who is this woman? But as a singer, I don't get that. But I know that some of the other folks that I've talked to, like my Black friends that I've talked to, get that sense of, you know, people are not embracing us as a Black person, or us as or where people are First Nations, or the Syrian people who have come in. So in order to make it equal, we need to look at not only our systems, because it's institutionalized, and also some systemic racism, but we have to look at those issues as well. So that's why we're looking at stakeholders like the police department, like the government, like the school systems, etc. So that's my project, and I've decided that it's important for me to be engaged at this moment in my life, even though I thought, oh, I'm retired, I can sit and relax and lay out on my deck. That's not going to happen. So I can't allow that to happen. So I listened to a song today, Andrea Day's song, I'll Rise Up. We can't wait. We just have to engage. And I will send a list of resources, and there's 3 study groups that are starting very shortly through the Center for Spiritual Awareness on racism, white supremacy, etc. So I will send all that information to her tomorrow, and then she can get it out to you all as well. So thank you. Any questions, comments, ahas?
We'll have that later.
Okay, I may not be here later. I've got a class in 40 minutes.
We'll have it after the speakers. So
you got it. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much.
So I see that our beautiful Reverend Crystal is here, Janice.
Janice has to unmute herself.
Unmute, and now I can speak. Thank you so much, Ms. Watson. And yes, welcome to quite a few people have come in. Hi, welcome. I would like to take this time now to introduce our second speaker. She is Reverend Crystal Bujol, who is a visionary, a creator of institutions for now and into the future. She has established significant institutions for women and children. She's the founder and artistic director of the Gifford, Florida Youth Orchestra, excuse me, and It is now in its 17th year. She is also the founder and president of the Inner Circle University, and it's now in its 25th year. And she's the founder of the first woman's church in the city of the Angels, Los Angeles. And now it is in its 35th year. So with all of her wisdom, she is in knowledge, she comes to us as our second speaker. Reverend Krista.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you for that lovely introduction. And thank you, Rainbow, for including me tonight. I don't know where all of the other participants are living, but I live in Florida, a little place called Vero Beach, Florida. But Rainbow and I know each other from our years in Los Angeles. Hi, Rainbow. Okay, am I on? Yeah, everything is on. And so I understand I'm supposed to talk about what I'm doing these days. Is that the topic, Rainbow?
Yes, very loose. You can talk about whatever is going on with you, in you, around you. It's up to you.
Okay, all right, fine. Well, I'll tell you what I did today. And in telling you what I did today, I have a story. I spoke for the UU Church in Indian River County here, and it'll be taped on, it will show on Sunday on YouTube. And I was talking about the fact that he cried out to his mother. That was my topic. And my intention was to help the people in the congregation, which is 98% white, have a better understanding of what goes on when a son cries out to his mother. And it was a parable, or rather a metaphor for what's going on in the street today with the protesters. And I used as my example to deliver this message an experience I had with my own children back in 1963. I'm the mother of 5 children, 3 biological children and 2 stepchildren. And the 5 kids and I were having dinner. And it was a very special dinner because we didn't have money at the time for steak. But my youngest, my middle son, had begged and begged and begged to have steak for dinner. I mean, I could afford to have ground round and mixed in the meat, or in those days, we didn't know any better. We had hot dogs or we had stew, but never individual steaks. It was too expensive. So on this particular occasion, I bought a large round steak and cut it into 6 pieces, and it was our make-believe individual steaks. Everybody ran to the table. Steak on the table, steak on the table. And so the 5 kids had their various styles of eating their dinner with this steak. I won't take you through each of the various styles except 2 of them. My oldest son, my stepson, and it's important that to the story that you know he was my stepson. I didn't have a better way of describing the children then. I didn't know the word blended family, so I had a stepson and a stepdaughter. My stepson put his steak over on the side, and he kept moving it around, but he was saving it to eat last. My middle son, my biological son, always ate his dinner fast. In fact, he inhaled his dinner. And so, of course, he finished first. And he was watching everyone else enjoy their food, and we were talking as we usually did at the dinner table. The next thing we knew, my middle son, Carl is his name, Carl reached over into Nelson's plate and took that steak and gobbled it down. Now, understand, there was no more meat. That was it. And here Nelson was without food, and Carl had 2 helpings. And I'm sitting there in utter shock because it's not the way I raised my children. The 2 girls, again, stepsisters, were shocked and they didn't know what to do. And one of them started to make reference to, why did you do that? And I could just see the family splitting apart over this steak. I could see my biological children taking sides and my stepchildren taking sides. But the youngest child assessed that situation. He started laughing. And he laughed so hard until it became contagious. And the next thing, 4 of the 5 children were laughing. But the oldest boy, Nelson, who lost the steak, hadn't decided what he was going to do. And so while we were laughing, our eyes were on him to see how we were going to act based on how he acted. And pretty soon he started laughing too. Now all of us are laughing about this steak dinner. And I had to give special praise to Nelson, the oldest boy, for being able to laugh about his loss. And I wondered, what was it in Nelson that allowed him to laugh though he lost his steak? There was no more meat for him. The thing about Nelson is that he had taken martial arts, karate. And in that teaching, he learned self-control, self-awareness. He learned how to compose himself and maintain his dignity and his space no matter what happened around him. And later he told me he decided he ain't heavy. He's my brother. Now that was the incident that occurred in 1963. But what made Carl take that boy's steak? That was the mystery. And I thought about it for a long time after that event. And then I remembered what happened when he was born. When Carl was born, we were so poor. He was born in Poor People's Hospital, the Los Angeles General Hospital. He was born into a system, and the hospital had a system that favored the staff, the workers, the nurses, the hospital. It did not favor the children, the babies, or the mothers. The system required that babies would be fed at a certain hour only. So they were fed at 2 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock. When they brought that child to me the first time, he had been crying from the time he was born until they brought him to me because he was hungry. He didn't care about the system, he was hungry. But he had been crying so hard that when he had 2 little sucks of milk, he fell asleep. We couldn't wake him up. The doctors tried to wake him up. Everyone tried to wake that child up. Couldn't. They took him back to the nursery, and in due time, he woke up and started crying again. He cried for 2 hours. They brought him back. He fell asleep. And that was repeated over and over and over for 3 days. That's how long you had to stay in the hospital back in 1954 when he was born. He was hungry and they wouldn't let him eat. And when I brought him home from the hospital, I tried to nurse him. I couldn't wait to nurse that child. But he had already discovered that mother's milk would not soothe him, and he wouldn't take it. And so for 2 days at home, my mother and I tried to feed him, wouldn't eat. 5 days, the first 5 days of his life, he was not attended to. He was not cared for. He was not loved in his mind. He had PTSD. And when he took that steak off the plate, that was his PTSD breaking out. He was hungry. He was always hungry. He never had enough to eat. He's 66 years old now, 65. He's still hungry. He still never has enough to eat. And the metaphor is, for 400 years, slaves have been hungry, but under the system, not allowed to do things that privileged people are able to do. Under the system that prevented them from having food, love, and care by the system, by the country, by the people they were sold to. And so when you see them,
Crystal,
yes,
the time is up. Would you like a couple more minutes?
I'll end it. Thank you. When you see the people in the street protesting, they're protesting because they are hungry for one thing or another. They want to change the system. And if you get sidetracked because some of them are burning down a house or blowing up a police car, that's the PTSD. That's the outburst. They don't even know why sometimes. They don't even know why they do it. And so our job is to figure out how to feed the hungry. And I'll stop with that.
Thank you so much.
That was quite moving. We have a third speaker, all the way from France. It's Miss Elizabeth. I'm going to try to say her last name. Argillier. Argillier.
That sounds lovely.
I have to say it a couple times. And I
That
took
was
French.
that, well, I can tell because you have the zhuzh down. And considering that you were not coached on the pronunciation, that was beautiful. It's Argillier.
One time, I cannot tell a lie. I was coached once.
Okay, well,
Thank
you.
You're so welcome. Let me tell you a little bit.
And if
about
that's
her.
too complicated,
Okay. She is an internationally acclaimed, multi-passionate artist, performer, and writer. She is a demonstrator of unconditional love and a fierce believer in miracles. She is currently creating a global movement for peace through meditation, as well as uniting people to share their inner gifts as a means to empower themselves and each other. May I present Miss Elizabeth with a beautiful French last name.
that's thanks to my husband. I wasn't born, but I knew how to choose the right name and the right man because we've been together since I was 18 years old. And that was a few years ago. And I've spent hello everybody. I want to thank, I'm still assimilating this very moving story that Crystal, if you don't mind me calling you by your first name, is it Bujol?
That's fine.
That was very, very, very moving. So I want to thank Rainbow, who is my second mother, my mother of choice. She calls me her daughter of choice because she has her own daughter and her own biological children, and you know the blendedness of our, you know, each of our lives. And my mother is no longer with us in the flesh, but Rainbow is. So I feel like I have the constant maternal connection, even though we rarely see each other, because prior to all of the pandemic madness that has engulfed the world, and the uprising and everything that we are all living around the globe, we were still far, far apart. I have been in France most of the time, you know, back and forth. Basically, I'm originally from Los Angeles. That's where Rainbow and I first met when I was a kid. And I would say most of my adult life here in Europe. And a few years ago, I did spend a few years in the States. And coming back here again, I always felt that while France is home, wherever my family is, home is. So my husband is here. We have 2 teenage daughters now. And yet something in me kept being pulled to go home. And as an artist, as a creative, and as a performing artist, and as a connector, I think of myself as a connector, not just my connecting with an audience through my spoken voice, singing voice, written voice, however it is that I'm showing up. I have a need to connect people with people. It's something that brings me incredible joy, and I feel like it's so much a part of why I am here. And I think the ultimate challenge is the fact that life as we know it now is change from just in a flash, is really forcing us to connect in a way that we never would have expected, perhaps, some of us. And there's a lot of resistance, you know, to not being able to connect as human beings, touching each other, holding each other, dancing with each other, you know, just like the in the flesh connection. Some people are very comfortable with this situation because some people are very hermity. Some people are just very at home with, no matter where they are, and being on a screen doesn't change much. So as prior to the pandemic, and then all of the horror upon horror upon horror happening back home, my original home, it's happening all around the world. It has always existed for hundreds of years. The enslavement, the injustice, everything we're experiencing, but everything has come to such an intense crescendo of what feels like hell on earth, apocalyptic in dimension, that what kept feeling like the pull to go home, I kept feeling like home is there. That's where I need to be as an artist. That's my roots. I'm an LA girl. France didn't feel like home. And so anybody close to me is aware of this struggle that I've had to not feel home in the place that I've been for the longest. So what I'm really trying to say, that was not at all part of what I intended to share. But what I have come to find is that home is, and this is not at all cliche, home is where the heart is, but literally, had I been home now, I could have been stuck there with my 2 teenage daughters and my husband on the other side of the globe. And I was resisting, you know, prior to the pandemic, I kept feeling like, I know what's best for me. You know, the universe wants me to be in LA. I want to be in LA. I have to. And then I realize now, not having the choice, that I am right where I need to be. And that I can continue to show up as an artist, as a human being, as a friend, as a daughter of choice, in any way that I can, as a stranger who just has a deep desire to listen. As much as I am so high on talking and sharing and singing and sharing whatever it is that I have to share, listening has become something that is, has taken on a completely new meaning for me. I couldn't add to any of these conversations. My point of reference in our conversation here is since the Floyd killing, brutal killing in front of our faces. That's my point of reference, even though we know that all of that has been existing for far too long, but we saw it with our eyes on the screen. We saw it, so we feel very, very personally concerned. He's ours, he's mine. I'm a mother, so I so relate to what was just shared so beautifully. And so home is right where I am, and not just I, Prentiss, but I am in the power of the universal I am. I am home right where I am. On the one hand, I am home right now. I'm home with you. We're connecting, you're connecting. And yet, home has rooms that are uncomfortable. Sometimes home is just one room, so you have corners that are uncomfortable. You have places that are dark, and you have places flooded with light. And we've been facing every corner, every light, every shadow in the confinement. And we were ahead of you in France in terms of COVID striking. So we kind of have been moving through it, lifted lockdown May 11th. And so I felt, wow, now I feel like I can kind of be here beyond, kind of feeling like on the other side. So I feel like I can show up for people that are really in panic still back home in America. All of my very dearest friends are there. And I feel like I can say, we're on the other side as well as we can know. And that there is another side. But then I'm faced with my own fears that rise and fall. My own fears that are a mixture of, will it strike again? Oh, it probably will. Do I expose myself to more information on the news, CNN or French local news or national? Or do I protect myself since nobody knows what the truth is about anything?
Elizabeth, this is time. Would you like a couple of more minutes?
I would. Thank you. Thank you. My presentation had nothing to do with everything I just said, so I'm going with what's unfolding. And no, it didn't have nothing to do with it. This is not what I planned, that's all. And so the no choice has me where I am, and it is the only place that I need to be, because as I move through my fears from the COVID threat, like feeling that life can be threatened, that my children could bring something now that they're out there in the world. My husband and I are still quarantining for the most part. They're living life like there was never COVID, because France and in our region seems, good. We're good. So they could bring it home. They could bring it home because bars and cafes and everything. So people have such a need to have normalcy again that they kind of want to put on blinders like horses that don't want to be spooked, and they want to believe that everything is normal. So what I've had to learn to get comfortable with, or at least familiar with, is the not knowing. I don't know if I'm going to have a friend call me tomorrow and say, my husband has not shown up anymore. Nobody can find him. And last time we saw, I have all these possible things of the next person that could be shot or hung. A friend whose child made his way from Haiti as a little boy, homeless and barefoot, all the way to the Dominican Republic as a child, and was homeless for years. And my friend went there, moved there, her family fell in love with this boy, Jonas, and did everything they could to adopt him. The mother begged them to take him to America. And they made it through the major hurricanes, made it back to the States. And now Trump is threatening to deport every child, every student that would be enrolled in online school. And so now this boy that just learned English over the past year or so, who just graduated with a 3.0, I mean, it's just stories like this. He is a boy from Haiti who's now a young man. My dear friend, sister, she's white, her family's white, husband's half Moroccan, whatever, I don't know. She says, I'm actually not sure if that means that my kids are children of color because their father's Moroccan. Anyway, bottom line is, Jonas is a boy of color, and JC is panic stricken because she feels it, and she's not with her son right now because he can't live in altitude because he's from Haiti and he's on oxygen, can't live in the mountains. So another school took him, and he's in another state with the JC's mother. And she said, I have to explain to Jonas that he can't wear a hoodie when he goes out, that he can't. So she's facing all the fears of mothers that feel that their children are the next target. So I move through.
Can you bring it to a close, sweetheart?
Yes, I can really try. It's a lot. It's a lot on my plate because so many conversations need to continue to unfold. And I'm working on creating my own, and we can join in the conversation. I'm devastated and outraged by what's going on in America. America's not my home right now. America's not my home. But I'm a fierce believer in miracles, and I'm a fierce believer in humankind and the good that is in the heart of all of our hearts. And I believe that our connecting as we are right now is what will make the difference, is what will help us heal and move forward out of this apocalyptic time to birth something that is far greater than we can possibly imagine. And I think that's probably not a conclusion, but a to be continued. And I want to thank all of you for being here, for being you. And I'm so happy to know that we have the freedom to connect virtually and to create conversations and connections and heal and encourage each other and mutually inspire. And God is good, and the universe has our backs, even when it feels like we've been abandoned.
Thank you so much. Oh, we have heard 3 brilliant statements, narratives of what's going on. And we thank you all so much. Should we unmute and just let our 3 folks know how much we've appreciated them sharing with us what's on their mind, what's in their hearts?
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
We enjoyed
Thank
it
you.
so much. Thank you so much.
And I love you all. I have a class in a few minutes, believe it or not, at this hour. So much love to everybody.
Have a good class, and thank you so much.
Thank
Yes.
you. Nice meeting you, Elizabeth.
Look forward to seeing more of you.
Yes. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Reverend Rainbow?
Yes. Now it is open to anybody who has something on their heart to share. That's why we're here. We love each other, and we are listening and hearing whatever you would like to share, what's going on inside and around you. That's why we're together right now. Please speak up.
I would like to share a few things. One, the degree of stories, what I keep hearing every time I hear people speak is the level to which hearts are broken, reflecting on where they are, how things are happening, no matter where they are in the experience. I'm really hearing the stories from a place of realizing how much their hearts had been hurt. And I will say that I've spent the last week listening to a book. Everybody kept suggesting anti-racist, and I could not bring myself to read a book that had anti in it, because I have such a Mother Teresa impediment. You know, tell me what you want me to do, not what you want me to be against. And instead, I've been listening to White Fragility, and that was the perfect book for me to be listening to, because that author literally has said almost every line that I was brought up around hearing. That was the basis of things that I've heard. And so what I've been able to do with all of that is write letters to very powerful people who are in my community, that when one of them put up a horrible post, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, of a photo of Joe Biden and Stacey Abrams that was altered horridly, I could write a letter to him and outline with no shame, no blame, no rationalization why what he was presenting hurt me deeply and why. And I've spent the day having various conversations like that, and one side of me hates having to do it, hates. I'll use that word so rarely. The other side of me says, if not now, when? Just as our wonderful speaker from Nova Scotia, Patricia, who just left, that she can never be quiet again. Yeah. So that's where I came out. The only last thing I'd like, I have stepchildren also for the last 40 years who are my bonus children. I refer to them as my bonus children, not as stepchildren. And they love that, and so do I. I was taught to say that. So thank you.
Andrea, can I ask you what questions that the book brought up that you had heard all your life?
Oh, having been brought up Italian, well, being Italian American, first, you know, my grandparents all came from Italy. They used to say, you know, like, why are you complaining? Like, we were considered just like that, but we, you know, overcame this. That was, I mean, there are so many lines like that in the book that were these subtle things, and it helped me. My father, who I could not adore more, from the time I was 18, he became the Block Association. We lived in a very low income area. And he became the president of the Block Association so that Black people wouldn't buy the houses. And when I said, you may not do that, he said to me, no, you don't understand, the prices will go down. And I said, but you can't, you'll hurt the people. And he said, it's not about the people. I love everybody. That subtlety that is ingrained on a moment by moment basis, that yes, I already knew it was wrong, but when you're hearing it from a different perspective, and I always knew the system was rigged. And my goal has always been to make the system truly fair, because I love this system. It works. It just doesn't work for everybody. And that's the gap I've got to close. Like and so I've been wrong thinking that just because I voted and just because I made sure, it was all bullshit. It wasn't happening. And I didn't see that. I saw it a little, but not. And I will also say I have the privilege of a large community because of spiritual centers, a large African American or people of color community. And the conversation I'm having with them is that I wish they would have stood up to me better. Like, they stayed a little too silent, and I think I'm really safe. So I was going through, and it's my problem, feeling a little betrayed that they were as hurt as they were, and I didn't know it. So that's all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you for asking.
Thank you for sharing that. That's really helpful. Yeah, I've had someone say that to me about, oh, I didn't know you felt that way recently. And I was like, oh my gosh, you're so used to internalizing everything that's difficult. We're not always being like, wait, that's unfair. You know, we're not always standing up for ourselves 24/7. We're just like processing, and we don't always want to wear the chip on our shoulder and present it every day to everyone. So when someone was like, oh, I never knew you felt that way. And I'm like, well, it's hard for me to even iron out my own feelings of injustice and, you know, woman of color in the workforce or whatever it is. I'm just living. I'm not quite categorizing all my, you know, difficulties, you know, and then laying them out to everyone in my relationships. I'm just trying to like, you know.
And I believe that for me is the gift of this moment, a heightened level of awareness of what is this really like? Of just because all of my friends are as educated as I am. We, you know, after you have a certain amount of income, you all kind of live the same. Maybe I live a lot more than my friends, but it doesn't really matter. We're all doing the same things. It becomes a little blind what it's like to experience it. And now it's different. Like I had the privilege, I'm a quick learner. I learn, you know, like once I screw up, I really learn, and I have been perfect at screwing up. So lessons such as I was unaware, I had to fire 2 people 30 years ago in my home because they disrespected my main housekeeper because her skin was too dark. And these were also people of color. And I'm like this bozo's, like, what are you talking about? I had no idea that there was internal standards. And each part of it, when I've walked away and said, I got to shut up more, which I haven't done just now, and I'm sorry, I've taken up so much time. No. And listen. That's what this time has really been about. Hearing at a different level.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'm glad you are.
Thank you.
Who else has a burning desire to speak?
Am I too loud, coming on too loud?
Yeah, a little bit, yes.
I'll back up a bit. But Crystal, that was I guess you'd call your story narrative was a metaphor for what's happening. And that was just beautiful. And I don't know if you got to expound on it enough, and I loved hearing from you. I'm trying to be a fast learner too, because I feel like I've been so far behind. And so Rainbow knows that I've been devoting a lot of time and I've been asking Janice to help me with whatever she, as a professor in Black history, university here in Austin, trying to catch up a bit. But Crystal, I would like to hear a little bit more from you, what you might have to say that you didn't get to, or somewhere in between. Could you hear me?
What is your name?
Yvonne.
Hi, Yvonne. Yvonne, do you have a specific question, perhaps, and then I can better know what you are interested in? Or was there a particular point that I made? Can you give me a hint?
It was so, When you could recollect what had happened in your young child's life that might have made the young boy that was took the stake from the other child, that was so. You became intuitive, I think, at that moment, because it's hard to recollect a lot. I think because I know my sister can't recollect about her own kids. Some of the things I told her reminded her that happened when they were young, but because I don't have children myself. And it just made me have more understanding when you talk about what happened in a family that relates to what happened in the whole culture of people of color.
I get it. Okay, so the reason I can remember so clearly is that I was in pain as well. Having given birth to this child and wanting to nurse him and feed him and nourish him, and not being able to because he was falling asleep and not knowing why he fell asleep, I was going through my own PTSD. And so the memory of that was painful. And it was painful enough for me to stay in touch with that. I mean, another part of the story is that once I realized that he had this extra hunger, and that was before the dinner. Before the dinner, I would give him extra food. I would let him lick the pot. I would give him little bits and pieces here and there because he had this very sincere hunger. Once we talked about it, he worked towards managing it and conducting himself differently. But the metaphor for me is just so clear in terms of what has happened in this country. And what do we do about it? How do we deal with PTSD? Part of that's going to be reparations at some point in time. And when I gave...
I'm sorry. That would be apology. There's another word. Some people get crazy. Talk about white fragility. They get crazy when you mention reparations because it's like you're going to take some money away from me. But this thing with the Oklahoma and the Indians that came out, that's going to take money away from people that have had that land. You continue. Reparations, apologies. There's another word for acknowledging what's due. I'm trying to think of another word for it.
Well, in the Bible, in the Christian Bible, there's a scripture that... Oh, say what?
Repentance? The type of repentance? I lose my choice of words.
Oh, I don't think so. I don't think it's that you lose your choice, but you just haven't been called on to use certain words under certain circumstances because it hasn't been your experience. You weren't educated. You were not fully educated in American history. Neither was I.
Yeah, and I'm trying to learn the words to talk to other people, other white people, that won't set them off.
Well, you may or may not, you will. Yeah. You will find all the right words, and if it does set them off, you will still be there to continue talking, and that is a big piece of what it's going to take to stay in the conversation.
Right, just saying white privilege has set people off.
That's true, but it's true. And I have given different sermons to white congregations and used that term. White privilege is a gift to white people. You were born with it. You can't shake it off. You can't throw it away. You can't get rid of it. It's a gift. And if you use it to help share the wealth, then you are using it in a very family manner. That's what Nelson did. He used his privilege. It wasn't white privilege, but everyone has some sort of privilege. And he didn't use his privilege to retaliate in that manner. He used it to smooth things over and keep the family together.
Nelson Mandela.
Yeah,
No, her
No,
son, her
Oh,
son.
sons.
no, the Nelson in my family, the young man who lost his stake.
I'm
Don't
sorry.
laugh about it.
Crystal, could you talk some more about if you have a vision of how reparations would work? To me, that's one of the specific ideas that's out there that's not being addressed that to me is very interesting. And I'd like to hear if you can add some specifics to that.
And what is your name, sir?
Don,
Hi, Don.
hi.
Hi. Yes, reparations has been on the table for all of my life, I've heard. And I'm 83, so I've been hearing about reparations. But the fact that you say it hasn't been spoken about is proof that you have not been fully educated. This is not a bad thing, it's just a fact. You've not been fully educated in American history. You've been educated, like me, with those parts of American history that the powers that be want us to know so they can continue to control the environment, control the situation. But reparations has been on the table longer than I have been alive in this body. And some of the ways that that you've experienced it already is affirmative action. That's a form of reparations, but it hasn't been called that. The Native Indians in certain tribes have been given reparations in a subtle manner by direct money, but also allowed to have casinos so they can generate income. It's a form of reparations. The Japanese were given reparations directly for having been interned during the Second World War. But the amount of money that it would take to give reparations to the descendants of African Americans is in the trillions. So it's not going to be like direct pay. It will be something like affirmative action has already been designed. Maybe they'll have be able to buy homes interest-free. Maybe they'll have more money on for groceries. They will be given additional money for groceries. Maybe they will have no copay on their medical insurance. It might be that they'll be able to, they'll get vouchers to go buy a car. It might just be some direct money like $1,000 a month for the next 125 years or something like that. It may, well, when you talk about trillions of dollars and then it's going to collect interest, and you talk about millions of people for 400 years, it's a lot of money. And one of the things that I'm noticing, a parallel to that the protesters are asking for, when they talk about defunding the police, they don't mean, as you know, getting rid of the police department, but taking some of the money back into social services that has been given to the police. Well, on a national level, we spend so much money on the war machine, on the military, and to cut back on some of that money in the military and shift that to reparations could be done and therefore not tax individuals. Because whatever they do, if they take money out of your pocket to give to a black family, you're going to be upset. And that's going to cause more divisiveness. It's going to cause a backlash. It will not create a healing feeling for you. And therefore, it's not going to create a healing feeling for the recipient. It's just going to further, oh, I get to use the word here. I get to use, oh, I can't remember the word. It just came and it left. Perturbation. Yeah. Oh, I get to use that word. I don't usually use that in my language. But Those
Use it again, because I didn't hear it. Use
perturbation,
Certification?
yeah. So those are some of the things that could be done in terms of reparation. But what I think we need to do as a family is to get ready for the backlash. Right now, it's like Christmas, and gifts are being handed out to the protesters. And the day after Christmas, folks are going to be tired and wonder, some people who are out there just because it's a fad and it seems like a good thing to do because their girlfriend or their boyfriend is out there, when they turn around and look at what the fallout is, they might be upset, they might weaken, they might not be able to continue supporting the movement. And we have to be ready to support the movement, even if it does mean that we have to pay higher taxes, even if it does mean that your friends might say, see, what did I tell you? That's not a good thing. Because really, right now, I think someone said it tonight. We really don't know what to do right now, at this moment. It's such a complex issue, and there's so many pieces to the issue, and every piece you think of has 400 years of history. It's not just about one quick fix. This is going to take probably as many years to repair as it took to tear it down. And if you want to read something that will give you some really deep insight, at least it will stir up thoughts in your mind, check out Project 1619, Project 1619. It's not a cursory kind of reading. I mean, it's like digest one paragraph at a time to understand how systemic these issues are. And I'm in a workshop at the church I attend where we are studying this. And every time I leave the workshop, I look like this. Because I can't believe what I'm learning about how everything in this country, everything in the system of America was designed for slavery. Everything. Everything. The way our banks operate, the way we are paid for our time, the medical industry, the police, the politics, all I can do is, because it is so systemic. And we're now in the sea of change. I hope that helps. Don, you said your name was?
Yes.
And Patricia, I hope that helps some.
Oh, Yvonne.
Yvonne, yes.
It does, and I heard somebody gasp when the word reparations came up a while ago, but I understand. I was afraid that we'd be in a backlash after Obama, and that's how Trump got elected. And I'm just going, we don't need any more backlashes. We just need positive traction, but it's hard to not go back and forth, I guess.
That wasn't a backlash. Trump was elected because people didn't want to elect a woman president, so they didn't vote. 4 million people did not vote in the last election. They didn't vote for Trump or Hillary, and it's coming out more and more that they didn't want to vote for her So instead of, and they didn't want to vote for her for many reasons, part of it being a woman, putting a woman in office, you know.
Well,
And
I just heard somebody's theory that it was white rage. I don't know. I think that's another book to read.
well, from his base, yeah, it was from, but his base is small compared to the 4 million people that didn't vote.
Okay. Good perspective.
Yeah.
So if I
Hi.
can jump in, please.
Yes.
So one of the hi Tig.
Hi, Bird.
Anyway, one of the pieces that I think is real valuable, one of the 12-step groups out there is adult children. And in their big book, there's a chapter and they talk about how from generation to generation, baggage is being handed forward to the next generation, good and bad. And one of the things that happened due to, the West African peoples being torn from their families and their tribes is that was broken. And so those descendants, having been forced into these kinds of things, they created perhaps created new baggage. And this is some of what has been forwarded on and on from generation to generation too. And so there's lots of facets involved here that are at play. One of the things I've been doing for myself, I've been looking at my family of origins from when I was a child and stuff things I remember about my mother and stories I've heard that I believe are true. And I look at both my maternal and paternal grandparents and their heritage, and it's like, wow, there's some interesting stuff that gets passed down, good and bad, functional and dysfunctional. So so some of that I'm looking at too. And as Liz, Crystal, as you described, as we're very young, when we come out of this warm womb into this cold world, and we're hungry and scared, and we're torn from the only thing we have known since conception, I think it's troubling for any infant. And so, those are our first experiences, and so there is a lot of healing that needs to be done on our individual basis as well as globally and community, no doubt. And reparations is only one piece. It's not all of it, because the West African descendants, they were ripped from and tribes just ripped apart, families ripped apart. It was horrible. I can't imagine that kind of thing. And then survivors handed this kind of horridness forward, and it's deeply sad.
Hi, this is Tiffany.
Hi, Tiffany.
Hey.
Hi, I'm sorry that I'm not visible. I'm traveling this week. I'm so enjoying the conversation. Interesting that we are bringing up reparations and all what that means, and it's such a I'm always taken aback at the difficulty of Americans to talk about, Black and white Americans, to talk about reparations for slavery, because there were reparations for Jewish people that America received about $60 million from France to bestow on Holocaust survivors. There's reparations to Vietnam. And this is first line Google search, so this is not hidden information at all. Reparations for the Vietnam War and those survivors. But I think it is difficult to own our own faults. Both my faults, as to Andrea's point, I am a person of color, I'm a Black person, I'm an African American, and part of how I've accepted certain racist behavior that's happened to me and just dealt with it, and maybe not felt safe enough to speak up about. So it's really hard, I think, to see the wrong, at least for Americans, it's been really hard, I think, for us to see where we need to correct. But there definitely have been reparations, to Crystal's point, for all kinds of people. And so the conversation around reparations for people who were enslaved, it's one that always chokes people up, but it's kind of like Andrea said, the system is great, it just it's not working fairly for everyone. And reparations is a place where we really see it's worked for Jewish Holocaust victims, it's worked for Vietnam victims, it's worked for the Japanese who were in internment camps during World War II. It's worked for so many people, but it hasn't been revisited since Reconstruction for people who were descendants of slaves who came from Africa. And that says something about the racism and how that works, the social structures of racism, how it can work for so many other cultures, but not work for this one particular culture, already says a lot. Interesting though, that, you know, America, I think it was 1996, the United States Congress did pass this resolution that they acknowledged the wrongdoing of slavery, but would not take responsibility. And that says something, like, it's like what wordplay are we pretending to sugarcoat this experience with? But I tell you, in having recent conversations, specifically when Trump went to Oklahoma right around the Tulsa massacres from 1921, and then talking to friends who were from Tulsa and hearing that they had a family member who was killed during that massacre, and they grew up there, just what that felt like for their family members to lose their dry cleaning business and their family members to have to go work for where this was mostly Black-owned businesses. Now they didn't have businesses anymore. And I thought, you know, we get so stuck as a culture on US reparations for slavery, but we could really talk about US reparations for all of the racial massacres that occurred both in, I mean, so many places, but Tulsa, Oklahoma for sure. And then I think it was Rosewood, Florida, but there's even race wars that were in Atlanta. And when we begin to look at Jim Crow and what that did, if we could just look at reparations from that space, the redlining and redirecting those types of programs very intentionally to really balance to Andrea's point, how great this system is and making it great for all people. But I do appreciate having this difficult conversation with this space, because I always tell folks, I've said to folks lately, we don't even have to go back to slavery to really see where reparations can be really directly applied to people who had and achieved, and it was taken away because people showed up with guns and started killing and they weren't held accountable, similar to what's going on in some of the things that are BLM and the Black Lives Movement is protesting right now. Those things were happening in 1921. Those people were never compensated or even tried. There was no one ever tried for this. This is scary to think, but the woman who accused the young boy Emmett Till in Mississippi of flirting with her, that cost him his life, she's still living. And, you know, never been put on trial for that wrongdoing. And I don't know if that's needed or even that's what the family wants, but it's just creating the system so that it works and all people are held accountable for wrongdoing. But then also where things were taken, they're restored.
You know, I'd like to tag on to something both Crystal and Tiffany were talking about, because I know that it shows the willingness of my own thinking because of these experiences just in this short period of time. You know, Marianne Williamson for years has been talking about reparations. And I've been in personal conversation with her where I said, you know, I just don't agree with that, because I understood it as like handing over money, like it wasn't really being explained. And I kept defending, but we have our laws, we just have to make sure the laws work. And, you know, I wasn't getting it. And now I am seeing how it did not work. And I will say that the education system, Crystal, when you said, you know, that what the history we were taught, I always knew that going to Catholic school, I was taught what I call a pablum version of history. I mean, the things my friends were learning in public school that weren't in my history books was like amazing. The second part of it was just as Tiffany was speaking about Tulsa, to be 64 years old and grow, and I'm educated and I'm aware. So I thought, to not know that had happened, and that as it was being said in the last, you know, month, I'm there trying to study up, like, how is this possible? How did I not know? And the only nanosecond of peace I got was when an African-American man stood up and said, I want you to know that I went to school in Tulsa, and when a professor told me that had happened, I said, no, you're wrong, because I was brought up in Tulsa. And that's the level to which we've lied to ourselves. It's that deep. And that's what I know I'm personally trying to excavate. Like, I don't have to be mad about it. I just have to not allow the old version to hold anymore.
I would just like to just am I on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Rainbow, I have somebody that would like to very quickly say hello to you. It's after 3 in the morning now, and he is just between 2 conference calls because he travels the world in the middle of the night. Philippe, do you want to just?
Sure.
Philippe Argillier, my husband.
Rainbow,
Have you followed it?
how are you?
I'm so happy to see you, Philippe.
Good evening to you. Or good
make
afternoon.
my heart sing. Everybody, this is Philippe Argillier, a very, very special human being in the world. Just beautiful.
I can see you are practicing your French. You're doing very well.
Thank you.
Listen, I just want to say to all of you how much we love you. And Elizabeth told me about this event that you were preparing. And Elizabeth said also there was a current subject such as George Floyd, the killing of George Floyd. And I just wanted to let you know my view on what happened and what is going on here in France. Long story short, myself, I've been a consultant for government for over 10 years. And my personal mission now is to give back. And I'm very focused on this. We have a very strategic, we've taken very strategic measures to actually give back to the people in France, the one in need. And we're extending this to the world, as well as the USA. You know, I lived in the country, in your country for many, many years. And I have a very good metaphor to give for myself. We were confined, we still are, with Elizabeth. Our children were confined also in separate location. But at the same time, we've been very privileged because while most of the people in France were confined into a small apartment, we're privileged to live in a very big villa, and somewhere, somehow, we had the luxury to have different locations at the same place. As a metaphor, for me, the Black community has been confined into one tiny room, while the white community has been living in a big villa. This is a metaphor, and I think it's about time to break down those walls of the small apartment where the Black community has been living for so many years now, and to allow them, to enable them to live among the white, where there would be no distinction of color, race, or anything like this. And to me, this is a very personal mission of mine, and I'm inviting you actually to follow what we are doing. This is very recent. For the past 2 years, we decided to build, I can easily say today, this is the largest political party / humanitarian movement in the world. It is called the Rassemblement des Droits de l'Homme. And you'll have a possibility to follow us at this moment. If you, I can give you the site. It's called humanrightsunity.com. It's the party, political party was set up 7 months ago in France. At this moment, we have the largest network and setup in the nation, while we still haven't hit the media. The media is scheduled to happen by the end of this year. So, but at the same time, the humanrightsunity.com will enable you to see what we are currently doing in the country, France. And we're going to be extending this to the USA within the next 6 to 9 months. And that will be under humanrightsunity.com. So I'm inviting all of you to look what we are all about. and you will also see where I'm coming from, you know, what I'm doing. And long story short, it's all about love. It's all about giving back. I felt not guilty, but somewhere uncomfortable by having built my own wealth and my own situation. And I think that it was time for me to give back. And the way I'm doing it is to bring people together under a very powerful platform, which is the Human Rights Unity. It's government in itself. I was able to put together a few heads of state with me, as well as one of the largest corporation in the world also. And all this is about taking concrete actions against injustice. So I won't stay too long. I do have a few phone calls, conference calls to make. Rainbow, I wanted to tell you that I love you. You're always beautiful. You always have a beautiful flower, and you have it on the right side, which means that your heart is already taken. Usually when you put it on the left, this means you're looking for one. So I'm very happy about this, very comfortable about this. Even though I had a beautiful, I knew a beautiful Frenchman that could, quote, fall in love with you, but knowing that you have a red rose on the right side of your face, that won't work.
Too late.
Too late. So anyway, I love you, Rainbow. I love.
There's Rainbow Shalom.
Oh, Rainbow Shalom. How are you?
Hi, great. Good to see you.
Good to see you. So please feel free to go on, you know, you have the 3W and it's called the HRU, and I'm sure you're going to love all the content. And again, this will take place in the United States, I would say within 9 to the next following year. At this moment, we're working to put the final work in France. And just a small, tiny word about Mr. Donald Trump. Just want you to know that we know him very well. I founded 20 years ago the first data bank in the world. At this moment, there are 4 data banks in the world. And actually, you did follow our work for the past 5 years, even in the USA, not knowing it was us. I'm sure you must have heard about a lot of whistleblowers. You heard about a lot of different action that was taken even at the time of the presidential election with Trump. You heard maybe about WikiLeaks, Julian Assange, and all those people. They all belong at the time to those data banks, and somewhere, somehow, it's all the same group of people who have decided to actually take action. And even though Julian Assange at this moment and wanted to step away from the core of the organization, and he has to pay the high price, but that was his own decision. So long story short, about the President Donald Trump, we know him well, not as the President of the United States, but we know him well as a businessman. Years, even very recent, prior for him to become president. The message is the following: just know that we are following him very closely, and he is not as stable as he appears to be. That's all.
Not that he appears stable.
That's all I can tell you.
He thinks he appears
this is not just any, go on the HRU and you understand my message. And as I said, we know him very well, and he knows us very well as Emmanuel Macron, the current president in France. I think both of those individuals is going to have to watch what the next step is going to be. And this is not a threat, this is a fact. With this, what else can I say? Nothing? Do you have any questions? No?
Well, I did take a look at your site, and it's very interesting. I'm going to look into it further. But I know this country does not have the kind of foresight that your country does. I mean, we're only, what, 200 years old, couple hundred years old, and we're like babies when you compare our government to the governments in the world. So I'm not sure America is as sophisticated as it needs to be to follow the design that HR, what is it called? HR?
HRU,
Yeah,
Unity.
but I'm glad you're going to introduce it to our country, and we may be able to follow. I say we, I'm one vote for taking a look at it and perhaps following what the ideology that you are laying out for us. It's beautiful.
You know, and it's a good point, but I want to reassure you. Today we are in 2020 and we're no longer in the 80s or 90s. Today there is no more political party. The strengths belong to data banks, information through network. Giving back the power to the people is educating them and giving them information that were not given until now. And that's the work of the data banks. You've been kept in the dark for so many, many years. Mm-hmm. And today, the USA, France, or any countries in the world will be in alignment with the HRU, because the HRU is not just the HRU or the RDH. It is the new evolution of political all over the world. So far, until now, most of the people, if not all the people, were kept in the dark. While because the organization, the governmental organization, is a very suitable organization that has two faces. One, the official one that you vote, that everybody knows, that it's like Donald Trump is going somewhere. It's going to cost you about $7 to $8 million. Air Force One, the streets are all closed, and this is what we want you to know and we want you to hear. At the same time, at the same moment, simultaneously, you have it's called unofficial government, mm-hmm. which is people like me, consultant of government, that have helped put this together. And at the same time, those people, the work we did in the dark actually is put in the light through the one that was put in place. At this moment, we are reversing this, which means that since we were kept in the dark voluntarily, we have decided to change this dynamic. And by changing these dynamics, while we're going to be now put in the light, we are bringing with us most of the people, if not all of the people in the world, over 7 billion, close to 8, they were kept in the dark, while giving them proper information, very sensitive information, actually that was given for the past 5 years, and that has helped. Look at WikiLeaks, what happened with the Clinton and so forth. And this is the tip of the iceberg. So today the strength is to be able to give back to the people by informing them about what happened, and particularly what happened with your money as taxpayers. And the more you'll be informed and aware of governmental organization, the more you'll have power to make a difference. Because today, there is no way any population in the world can make any difference unless they know how the machine works. Mm-hmm. The government in itself, it's a very sophisticated organization. And the only way to get through it is to know the code, is to speak the same language. And our work here through the HRU is to decode this code to you in order for you to understand how it works. And trust me, at this moment, Donald Trump himself, the Trump organization, as well as Macron, has been following us very closely. Somewhere, somehow, skeptical and very afraid that maybe some more information, undisclosed information, would be revealed through the HRU or the RDH. It's not just up to me, it will be up to our organization. So we are the one in control today, and then that's not being arrogant. This is a fact. It's going to be according to our strategy and no longer their strategy.
Their system.
So today, as I said, our work is to inform you and to give you as much as information as possible in order for you to speak the same language. And trust me, they'll know, and you'll see the evolution of politics in the next 10 years. The actual work of politician is over. Today, the strength lays on information that so far was not disclosed. And that's our work to transparency, and it's about time to give back to the people. So it's not just limited to the Black community that has been very much oppressed, and this is why I was doing the metaphors, keeping them into one room. At this moment, the universe is calling for fairness and transparency, and we have the means. Look at us. We're talking right now, and I'm informing you. We are, I don't know, maybe 10 or 100, but this information can be given at the same time to millions of people.
Yeah.
And that's where the strength is. So long story short, just know there is very good thing happening while we speak. There are a few people that really are very dedicated to give back, and they have the power to do so. It's not only the financial means, it's the information that we have that's going to make the difference.
It
So
sounds to me like a mother, the difference, the way a mother would explain, where do babies come from? You get a little information when you're a certain age, and then you get more, and then you get more. It sounds very exciting to me, and I look forward to reading more and understanding more and knowing more from that which you are presenting to us. Tell me one thing, are you going to tell us, are you going to open up Donald Trump's taxes for us?
listen, we don't really need to open Donald Trump taxes because we know all about it, and he knows we know all about it.
No,
We
I mean
know
for us. Are you going to reveal it to us?
potentially, and maybe we might reveal even something else. There is more important than his tax money. Donald Trump took some trip in Russia.
Yeah.
Donald Trump is a little boy, not intelligent, because when you work with governments, you have to be extremely vicious. Why? Because to begin with, you can't trust anyone you speak to. When you speak to someone you know is your enemy, and knowing he's your enemy, you have to be worse than him. So that means that data banks, what we do, we get as much information as we can, not only in writing, but videos can be set up, audio can be set up.
Well, hurry up.
Trips can be set up. The only thing I can tell you, Donald Trump took a trip because he was very interested in investing into a mall in Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
He went to Moscow, whatever it is, and he met with few business advisors that we know very well. And Donald Trump, beside his ego, is a very sexual maniac, very interested in small girls. And I can tell you for a fact that today, while we speak, somewhere, somehow, there is a location where we have a very good recording of Mr. Trump. And we're not talking about politics or tax. We're talking about things that cannot be allowed or permitted. And he did it. And he knows somewhere, somehow, this is around. And it would be up to us, according to our own strategy, to see what we're going to do with this. And I'm talking about very personal things. And this is what today, the strengths of data bank, it's not anymore about tax money or hidden financial matters. It's about personal things that people did. So when you are a president, when you are heading a country, you have to be fully transparent. You cannot fool people anymore. They have a big problem for data banks today own this information, not just limited to Donald Trump, but others. So, and all those individuals are very well informed that those data banks own this information. So this is going to be a game and a strategy that's going to be put in place between the HRU and the RDH and the government in place, because the HRU is not just Philippe Argillier. I'm also a spokesperson for other governments that have decided with me to team up to finally give back to you who are the real people in power.
The
You
reason
are in power.
The reason I'm asking you to hurry up is because, number one, as long as he's president, what we are seeing with the virus is that for every 100 people that die from the virus, I think the number is 65 or 68 Black people are dying. 73 brown people are dying. He is killing people. Number two, there is this concern that when he is voted out, he's not going to leave the office, and all the damage he can do between now and then to destroy, hurt, and otherwise create havoc in this country for the people, we'll have no control over, because he has the power to do it. So hurry up and release that so we can move him out, hopefully, in order to regain the beauty of this country and the ideal of this country. Otherwise, all the new president will be able to do in 4 years is try to restore us to where we were 4 years ago, instead of moving us forward. So hurry up.
Listen, we are fully aware. The thing is about the HRU, it's global. We have the US, France. Also, we have two very specific countries that we are following, which is the Philippines and Venezuela, where it was taken over by the Chinese, and there is also very strategic economical and political measures between the US. So it's any move we make is very sensitive. But trust me, we are following Donald Trump very closely. Unfortunately, we cannot only focus on the United States. This is a global strategy for the next 6 to 7 years. But if needed, we have what it takes. That's all I have to tell you. And that's going to have to be part of the strategy. We're going to follow him also now in November. I hope that the American people would be wise enough to understand that it's about time for him also to vote for somebody else. And if they do not do this, and if we feel like we can, with our strategy, something will happen. Just keep following the news. And if you see something a little bit odd, I'm sure you will understand where it's coming from. That's all I can tell you. At the same time, I'm inviting you to go to our site. I love all of you. And it's good to see, Rainbow, that you're putting people together like this. And what I can do for you, though, and this is what I'm offering. We are opening up a very big web TV in the next 2 weeks. It's a very big platform. It's like a CNN platform. And I could, if we put the right people together before actually when the HRU hit the US, maybe I could give you access to that platform that you can start with under the Human Rights Unity roof, getting involved people also in the community and speaking and being seen. That's going to give you an incredible step forward, because if I do this, at the same minute, the Trump administration is going to understand that something is taking place with people with the right consciousness, and that we are somewhere backing up the people who are sharing the same ideology that we do, which is giving back with full transparency. So I'm really going to think about possibly offering you this platform. We can discuss this, Rainbow, and with other people. And if needed, maybe once a month, we could organize in the US under the Human Rights Unity Web TV a discussion, but this time would be very much linked to political and what you want to see change in your country. And if I do so, just know that you would be listened as a Secretary of State, of someone official from a government. And that's going to make a big difference, I think. So I'm going to see if I can do this. I'm going to talk with my people. And if we can organize this, I'll be more than happy to offer you this platform at least for once a month.
Thank you very much,
That
Philippe.
would be wonderful.
Yes, thank
Okay,
you.
I'll talk to Rainbow about this. And but then we need to organize this. And I think that would be great. It would be great because it will show for the very first time that actually a machine, a state government entity is backing up people like you and giving you really a power, because this is what you need to have. All the right consciousness is a wonderful thing, and I applaud you. Today, to make the difference is to be able to sit on a governmental platform. And this is what the HRU is about. And this is what we're willing to do for you.
Thank you, Rainbow, for living your life in such a way that you would attract people to you who are willing and able to make such an offer. Thank you.
Well, so at the same time, please take your time, go on Human Rights Unity. You will see it's all about what we do in France. Look about my work, what I've done so far, and what we're heading to. And my proposal is very serious. I'll speak to Elizabeth. I'm sure she could be the perfect intermediary, and why not? And set up maybe very soon your first program under the platform of Human Rights Unity. That would be great. We'll send a very small note to the Trump administration before we do so. And I'm very serious about it.
Thank
you.
Thank you.
Nice
I'm going to
work.
go so much, and we'll talk very soon. I'll leave you with my one.
Good thing we're night owls, huh? It's getting close to 4 and a wide eye and bushy
Gotta
tail.
go to bed.
Wow.
This has become something. It had its own energy. Wow.
Who would have thunk, huh?
Are we ready to say Auf Wiedersehen, or do other people have things to say? I mean, this whole thing has just become its own thing with its own energy.
I found that website and I'm so impressed. And Crystal, you found it early on, didn't you? His website.
She was on it. Crystal's on it.
I'm on a laptop with you, but I have 2 computers on my desk on each side of my laptop. I'm sitting in my captain's seat. This is where
That's what I mean by you're on it. You are on it. You've got your screens. Yes. I would like to, if we are closing this up, what I would like to offer that is of everyone, it would be a full way.
You were breaking.
I think it was an introduction by Janice.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, you're breaking up.
In the making meditation that I have started, I think it's probably been about 6 weeks. Pardon me?
You're breaking up.
Oh no, can you hear me?
But you need to start over because we didn't understand what you said initially.
Okay, can you hear me? You can hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
I would like to, since we are closing this up, what I would like to offer to you, it's probably only 2 minutes. I started, I am busy creating a movement that is through meditation, pausing for peace. And I myself it just happened overnight. I have started, I meditated on and off throughout my life, but what I am doing now that is quite radical and has completely transformed my life, and I shared it with Rainbow, I meditate every hour on the hour, every waking hour. So for me, it would be setting my alarm with my sacred music. Let's say I start my day at 2 p.m. I'm just in a completely other sphere. And every hour, whether I'm in my eating vegetables or saving plants' lives, because that's really all I feel that I can do right now, is just about life and more life. Whether I'm digging in the dirt or engaged in a conversation, I will pause for meditation. Powerful to have moments of us throughout the day, every single hour. And this music is absolutely transformative. It was written by my partner, Eric Peterson, with whom I've written several songs. He's an amazing artist and producer. I don't know if anybody knows how many people know Agape, but he was linked very much to Agape as a musician for many years. He's on the East Coast. This song is for a feature film that I wrote and that I'll be producing, Carly Rose. And it's the instrumental version. And I've never grown sick of it. I've never heard a song more than this song. And it is the one that that initiates my meditation. So if you would like to join me in a moment of silence with this sacred music that for me makes me feel that I am floating on hope, and hope is everything. Yvonne.
May I ask you this? We've recorded everything tonight. Is that going to be okay with everybody?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for asking. Very, very good. Okay, so if we can turn inward now and allow ourselves to ourselves. We've joined each other under one roof, indivisible, in love. I don't know how good the sound will be coming off of my iPhone. You'll let me know if it's okay. Can you hear that?
Yes.
Rising sun, see us only as we really are. So afraid but never alone. Sweet desert rose. My desert rose. Let's bring it home. Bring ourselves home. To safety, to protection, to realizing our greatest potential as one, indivisible, with true liberty, because until we all are free, none of us are free. And I'm so grateful for this moment with you. Thank you, God. Thank you, Rainbow. Thank each and every one of you.
And thank you so very much. We're going to move towards our benediction, but I wanted to remind you that if you would like to donate to the Austin Center for Spiritual Living, all you need to do, Teresa was sharing with us a little note about just going to the chat room, and PayPal is there, and I think you can also use a credit card. So just wanted to remind you of that, and we thank you so much. We thank you for being here. Reverend Rainbow?
Yes. Well, we're halfway between heaven and earth. We are all together in a new consciousness. And I am so grateful for us being together as one, for the transformation of consciousness to share at such a deep love level as we go forth and emanate that love and that beauty in our lives, and that transforms the entire planet. I bless us on our journey, and I bless our lives, and I bless the world, as together we say, and so it is.
And so it is.
So it is.
Have a beautiful evening, everybody.
Yes, a
Thank you,
beautiful
Rainbow.
Thank
evening.
you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
God bless.
God bless.
Rainbow Shalom. Is your daughter still online with us?
I don't know.
No, she's gone.
Gone? Oh, okay. I was just going to give her a hug. I'll send it to her by email.
It's so
nice.
great to have her here. It's so wonderful.
So nice to have
Great
met
to have
everyone.
all of us here. It's just family.
Very
So
good.
beautiful.
Bye.
Thank you, Crystal.
Thank you,
And
Chris.
I'm a slow learner, but I'm going to work on that reparations idea more.
Rainbow has my contact information if you should want to ask me any questions or be in touch with me.
That's good. I did send you one email, but I'm sure you get a dozen of them. I thanked you last time. I thought I sent it. I'll send it again, Yvonne Johnson. Just like Rainbow, Johnson.
Johnson. Please do, Yvonne.
Okay.
And blessings to you and your husband, and blessings to you, Rainbow. It was wonderful. Thank you for inviting me.
And Lisa took a break.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Sweetheart, sleep well.
And I'll have to end the meeting, and Lisa can leave afterwards. She had to go walk her dog. It was in the chat, and Tiffany to everyone.
Thank you, Yvonne. You did a lovely job.
Yeah, and Tiffany, I finally removed that iPhone, whoever it was, because I figured if we went to breakout rooms, it wasn't going to do. There was somebody signed on that never identified themselves. So.
It was lovely. How many people are there or were there?
There were 18.
18 magnificent people.
Yeah, but that was counting the iPhone, I guess. Well, that actually with Jeff. Oh, yeah, so about 19. Because we
Lovely.
have to count the couples. Doug and Ida didn't join us tonight, but being recorded, it'll be wonderful for everybody. Frederick's on. Look, Rainbow.
What?
Frederick's joining us. Have you got it on gallery view?
Frederick, we're just ending the meeting.
Okay, I just finished working.
Oh, y'all can stay on as long as you want to.
Well, it's good to see you guys.
We have Philippe and Elizabeth from France.
Oh my God, I'm sorry I missed her. Well, did you guys have a good meeting?
Oh, exceptional.
Very
Good.
No kidding.
Oh, and then who's that? Oh my God, who is that?
Yeah.
How big is that cat?
24 pounds or something. 24 pounds.
Wow.
Frederick,
Oh my God.
you will want to hear from your sister about Philip. You going to tell him, Rainbow?
Oh, well, he knows Elizabeth and Philippe for years.
Yeah.
And he knows
Well,
about
you
the
guys,
human rights.
I'll be right back. I have to do one quick little thing. I'll be right back.
Oh, we're ending the meeting, sweetheart.
Okay, well, Lisa, I don't see you, but have a great night. I see Lisa Clark's name, and Yvonne and Jeff, good to see you
I
guys.
like your
and the cat.
facial hair, Frederick.
Oh, thank you. It's just growing.
Well, I didn't want to miss Frederick. I didn't
Well,
want
I'm
to.
glad to see you
Frederick is
guys.
on a
and Kitty, too.
67-mile hike.
What? You did what, Frederick?
Yeah, I know. I was saying it was nice to see you guys and the kitty too, who's waving. I see some.
Okay. Well, I hope Rainbow gets on with you afterwards, because I don't have to leave.
Okay, I have to do another. I mean, that's what I was saying. I'll be right back then because I've got to do this one last little email thing.
We're actually concluding.
Okay, well, I will talk to you. That's why I was trying to say my goodbyes. Then I will talk to you all later.
Okay, and we can
Love you guys.
FaceTime or do Skype or something.
Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Give people a chance to digest everything that we just heard.
My God. Did you know all that about Philippe?
Oh, of course. For you.
Oh, my God.
Yeah.
Well, I'll click in.
Definitely a planetary shaker and mover.
Wow. I was so worried about this Trump thing. I'm glad.
Just planetary. Okay, Yvonne, thank you, sweetheart, for everything.
Thank you. And I'm just waiting. I'm going to be polite and let you leave, and then I'll end the meeting.
Okay, I'm leaving.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Here I go.